the distinguished panel on the stage and distinguished members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen. I have an interesting task of listening to a very distinguished panel, and we have a very limited time. So therefore what I will do is, I will talk about the issues concerned and will listen to the solution from the distinguished panel that we have. So since we are 7 and we have to try to finish the whole thing before 1 o'clock, so we'll have to take only a few minutes each, and we'll try to leave as much of time as possible for questions from the audience. So our area is vocational education and skill development. I am going to talk about only the problems, the strength, the weaknesses, the opportunities that we have, a kind of SWOT analysis, and then leave the picture before you about how to organize vocationalization. See, today every young man in the world wants to go to some of these universities, MIT, Berkeley, Michigan, and similarly in India, our young people want to go to ICT, to IISc, to IITs, and such other institutions. But we have heard many voices of Jairam Ramesh, voices of Kapil Sibal, Narayan Murthy, all of them talking about lack of research even in our premier institutions. We have seen the rankings, we are slipping down fairly fast from year after year. And we have seen that China, which was with us in having useless universities in 1985, has progressively climbed up. Till today, we think that we cannot even equal China. We know that Thailand, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, their best universities also have a ranking above our best university, which is IIT Delhi. So the question is, are our students not intelligent enough? I think all of us will agree that that is not true. I have seen our students competing with students from the rest of the world when I was teaching outside. And I have seen that our students have made their mark. But I would say there is one problem which engineering students have. Our students are no good in practice. They will go there and choose problems which are either theoretical or in software. They will tend to shy away from practical problems. Whereas if you talk about the students from China, students from Iran, they will very easily take up problems and succeed in those. So it seems in our bachelor's programs, in our master's programs, we are not doing well as far as practice orientation is concerned. Our faculty, well, I can tell you from my own experience that our faculty is second to none, only if they choose to take care of themselves. Well, I had taught all my life here, probably more than 3 decades. And then I happened to move to Canada. Well, I was able to do as well, if not better, than the people from anywhere. So our faculty is quite competent. Then the question is, are we not innovative enough? Is our DNA as a race very poor? So, see, we must ask all these questions, because the point is, where we are, unless we analyze that, it will not work. We have a long and rich history, and I will not try to talk about all these issues one by one, but all of us know that we had a fairly high degree of innovations developed in India up to the year 1200. After that, we have not really developed any new ideas or any new products. Now, we have, of course, had philosophical leadership, technical leadership, but all of that was finished, I think, by 1200. What is it that happened in 1200? That was the time when we burned our last university. I think Nalanda was burnt out in 1197. So something happened. We simply destroyed our universities. We succeeded in burning Nalanda when Oxford was just being built. And after that, for 650 years, we did not have a university. And then how did we come to have these 600 universities? In 1854, Woods, an employee of East India Company, thought that India should have 3 universities. He wrote a note, and on the basis of that note, East India Company agreed to establish 3 universities in Bombay, Calcutta, and Delhi, and Madras. We, the 600 universities of today, are successors to that Woods idea. So these universities were not established by the British government. They were established by East India Company. We at GTU have established a project to look at the structure of universities anew, to see whether this particular structure, as devised by Wood, is suitable for us today, and to develop a new structure. We are inviting people from all over the country to join this research project so that we are able to develop a system which is suitable for us. We had a few days back Professor Indiresan with us. I hope you know, he had an illustrious career at IIT Madras as the director and as a professor. He advised us, don't copy IITs, don't copy the Woods model. Talk about something new. That's what we are trying to think about, a new model for our universities. We have many innovations to our credit, but they are not good enough for a large country like India. So, as yesterday somebody said here, if China is able to do well, why not India? And the advantage is China has already created a recipe. We only have to use it. In China, the communist government, supposed to be a dictatorship, has permitted its universities to study and do the experimentation. In India, in a democracy, we have regulators who I don't think allow any experimentation by our universities. Until we break loose from these regulators, we are not going to succeed. Anyway, today the idea is vocalization. We want to talk about how to train millions of our young people, because we have a great advantage in a very large number of young people. And we can exploit their capability by giving them proper training. Now, what we require is an innovative implementation, an innovative execution. And let's see whether we are able to do so. In the last 20 years or so, we have established a large SFI system for engineering and for all technology education. And we have made a mess of it. Now, the only thing is, let's not try to make a mess of this new process that we are going to begin. So therefore, we have to talk about all these issues. We have to talk about where the governmental system has failed. We have to find out where the private system has failed. So basically, the thing is, we have to come out of laziness of mind, evaluate everything critically that we have done, and then find out a new path. That is what is required. So I will not talk about all these issues one by one, since the time is short. I would only say that our strength is the large number of young people. We have probably the largest number of young people in our country than in any other country. Our state universities, a lot of problems, But there is one thing that they have been able to do. They are essentially examination boards. And that's what they have been able to do well. There are a lot of problems with state universities, and I can go on talking about them. But the basic problem is administration. We are not able to manage them as a university should be. I have had one advantage. I was the senior most professor in my university in India for 8 years before I left for Canada. Very soon in Canada, I became director of my school, which was the largest department in my university over there. So I have seen both the systems from near the top. And I have seen the difference in management. I can tell you there is a huge, huge difference in management. Probably that is what has ruined our university, because we have not learned how to manage a university. We have some opportunities also. The opportunity is, it is very easy to make a change. In the rest of the world, it's very difficult. If you want to make a change in a Canadian or a US university, well, you will have to be really very strong in pushing any new idea. Over here, the change is very easy because nobody feels any ownership in the university. Nobody is proud of his university. So you can make a change. Of course, we have some universities like IITs, of which people are proud. There the change may be difficult. But in other universities, the change is very easy. Change may ultimately create a feeling of ownership. And at that point, it may become difficult to go further. But right now, I think we have an opportunity. The threats, well, you know the well-known threats. We are not really able to manage our institutions. So the question is, with all these challenges, can we build a new structure for vocational education which is dynamic, which can serve the purpose? I feel we can, but let's hear our distinguished panelists. Thank you. I'll invite to begin with Professor Sacheti because I think he wants to go early. So, please.